So this scam involved Bitcoin. So tell me just kind of a little bit, like what happened? How were you approached?
I was on a recipe site. I enjoy cooking, so I was on a recipe site that I've been on many times, and I was scrolling down, and suddenly my computer locked up, and there was a big black screen with verbiage that said, your identity has been compromised. It's on the dark web in China and possibly Russia. You must call Microsoft immediately. And there was a big number in bold letters. And then it started verbally saying that message, so I froze. And I couldn't do anything on my computer.
That was coming through your speakers?
Through the speakers. Over and over and over. So obviously I was frozen in fear and didn't know what to do other than immediately call the 800 number at Microsoft. I immediately got through to someone, which now I know is a red flag. I mean, when you call Microsoft, you never get through immediately to someone. As in most businesses, you have to wait, you have to, identify what your problem is. So that now I know is a red flag. I got through to someone who had me type some things into my browser, and I also know now that you probably gave them access to my computer, but at least the verbal message stopped, so there was a point of relief, and it's also a point where they start to create trust. This is what a lot of these scammers do, right? They create trust and that they're going to help you, when that's the farthest thing from the truth.
So immediately when you contacted them and they were able to get that voice message to stop, that's like a moment of relief.
Exactly. Huge relief, but then it's also creating trust in someone that I think is Microsoft, but clearly isn't. So they tell me that the phone line that I had called in on, probably the dark web people could hear our conversation. So I needed to call in on a private line that he gave me, was some 412 exchange. So he had me hang up. I called that number. And now I know that's all a charade too, because obviously this was fraud. But I called that number, so he told me that my IP address had been compromised. They would have to send someone from the FTC. Prior to that, he also told me that if I could hold one moment, an FTC case number was being assigned to me, so he would have to, create all that. So he had me hold. He got the FTC number. Then he worked me through getting rid of the screen that I was seeing and unlocking my computer, as it were. But then it was very important that they check all my bank accounts and credit card and all that stuff to see if anything had been compromised. Well, nothing in fact had. And while I was in there, I changed my credit card password, which he later said to me, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." Well, I now know why he didn't want me to do that. But then told me that my bank account likely had been compromised, but I wouldn't be able to see it because it was being held in a dark place. Well, more untruth, obviously. But that the Wells Fargo, I was a Wells Fargo person, would be able to help me, that his banker would be able to help me clarify all that. Well, all I did, obviously, through that whole process was give him visibility into my bank account. So the Wells Fargo banker on their end, he had me do a bunch of things, but then told me he could see that there was a dark web amount on there for $15,000. So I needed to go to my nearest bank branch, withdraw cash, and go buy Bitcoin, set up a digital wallet, and all of that would be protected, and he would help me make the connection so that I would have access to it. By this time, some time had gone on, and they had, said a number of things to, create trust in them. And the things that now look so obvious at the time when you're dealing with fright and feeling like you're being compromised are all comforting. One of the things that I know now is that if somebody tells you your identity has been compromised, if it has or hasn't, 10 minutes means nothing. So hang up the phone, call your friend, call the police, call somebody, and see if in fact that is true or not, and just describe the situation and tell them to call you back. They likely won't, or have them give you a number. They likely won't do that either. But anyway, I went off to my bank, asked for $15,000 in cash so that I could go buy Bitcoin. No one at the bank questioned. The only comment I got from the bank was, I hope you're doing something fun with this. I had been instructed by the Wells Fargo banker, that fraudster online, not to speak to anyone, to tell them what I was doing, not to let anyone know, because they're from the fraud department at Wells Fargo, and they're very separate entities. Well, obviously that is all a lie. Speak to the banker, speak to somebody, because you're in trouble. Somebody's trying to take you for a ride. So I got the money. She gave it to me in a brown paper bag, which it just feels like otherworldly, right? You're in the movies at this point, carrying out $15,000 in $100 bills. He directed me to a Bitcoin machine, which was like an ATM in a gas station. I drive up there, and it's like, that too felt super sketchy to me. It's like, what is going on right now? So he helps me set up a digital wallet in this ATM, Bitcoin ATM machine. And then I start feeding the money into it. And it's like, there again, you kind of look around and it's like, is anybody seeing this? Like, it felt horrible, obviously. At the very end of it, you get a receipt, and he wanted me to get it back into my car. And actually, prior to that, he had sent me a text from a 212 or 202 exchange. And he said, I'm just going to say, this is Steve, don't respond, or let me know that you got that, because he had me on the phone still. And then he said, you will send a picture of your ID and a picture of the receipt to him, and that would create the Bitcoin connection, I believe. So when I got back into, or what initially happened is, when that number came up on my screen, on my phone screen, it said, is this a scam? And I was like, this process had been going on for over 2 hours. So I was already pretty nervous, and then when that popped up, I'm like, this isn't right. In addition to some other red flags, but when I got back into my car and he wanted me to send a picture of my photo ID, I was like, that's not, I said to him, this makes me super nervous, I can't send you this. And he said, why? I mean, what, I told you I'm a Wells Fargo banker, and he started to get indignant at that point. I was over on Falls of Noose at the Bitcoin machine there, and I knew that there was a bank branch close by, and I said, well, okay, it's not a big deal then. We've been on the phone for 2 hours, so why don't I just go check this out at the bank? If it's valid, no big deal. Well, he became more indignant at that point, and so it was empowering to me. Walked into the bank, and obviously she verified, told me to get out. She took the phone from me, actually, the bank manager, and she took the phone from me, spoke to him, at which point he hung up. So the fact that I didn't send him that copy of the receipt certainly was a big plus in my favor. I reported it to the Raleigh police, and the detective I worked with was incredible. I'm one of the few, I know I'm one of the few that got my money back. I feel like, I know it was the Lord and many people praying, and the graciousness of the Lord to restore it. But it's a horrible feeling, and a horrible feeling to be taken.
Describe that, when the red flags finally piled up and you kind of realized what was happening. What was that feeling?
How did this happen to me? I like to think I've been in business a lot of years, and you feel like you're on top of things, but you realize also that you're not savvy to, or you realize that there's so many schemes out there that appear to be legit, and they're not. But the feeling, it's a horrible feeling, and you in one sense you go, that was a lot of money. That's a lot of money to me. I don't know if I'm going to get it back. And it's fear, but there's also like, it's crazy because it's kind of a relief to know that at least I hadn't sent him that final piece that he needed to make that final connection. I felt like Wells Fargo was going to help me more than they did, because I had signed for the verification for the withdrawal to take out all that cash. They said it matched my initial signature. I don't know if you want to include all this stuff, but
you're great.
They said that signature matched my signature on the account, so they couldn't help me. So I was even more grateful for the detective that went to about 1,000%. He actually went over. He met me at my home. That happened on a Friday. He came to my house to get all the receipts. Went over to that Bitcoin machine, had it taped up with crime tape, and subsequently was able to, my money was still actually in that machine, and he was able to get it unlocked with the armored vehicle and all that stuff, and physically brought back all my money.
He literally took back your money for you.
From that machine. And here's another thing that God did that day. So that Bitcoin, or the armored truck, was supposed to come on that Friday that I was frauded to retrieve all the money from the machine, and something happened that day. He didn't come for his to retrieve the money. So Detective Jacobs knew that it was in that machine, and had it verified through National Bitcoin, which owned that machine. But yeah, he was the following, it took a week or two, but he was in constant communication with me, and I think that was the other thing that was so reassuring to me. He'd given me his phone number so I could text him. He responded like quickly, and he became a rock for me, when you're feeling like there might be hope after all. So my story ended well, for sure, but there were many red flags. Like I said, you always have a minute, you always have 10 minutes, call somebody. Or actually, a friend had this other advice from me. She said, every once in a while when she gets prank calls or what she thinks are scam calls, very often they have they'll tell you this may be recorded for, safety purposes and so on. And she lets them go for a bit, and then she says, well, just so you know, I'm with the FBI and I'm also recording this message, and they immediately hang up.
It's a good little way to get back at them.
It is, yeah, just mess with them, yeah. So anyway.
So you told me a couple things beforehand, some things that you found out. We've covered some of them. Have we covered all of them, or all of the points that you want out there that you want people to know about if you find yourself in this kind of situation, and how to react and to protect yourself? What else do people need to know?
So the whole frozen computer thing, that they have apparently created links somewhere on sites. The best thing to do is just do a hard shutdown. I'm trying to shut down normally. Just do a hard shutdown on your computer, and that first of all will stop it. You won't be able to. It won't be able to reenact itself. So do a hard shutdown on your computer, call people, just be wary of anything that pops up on your computer.
Did you ever have any idea, or ever find out where the initial pop-up came from? How it got through your...
So, on a lot of sites there's advertising, and those little advertisings, they can have the fraudsters go in behind it and put their links. So in my scrolling down the page, there could have been something that I inadvertently hit. I don't know, but I didn't really find out, because the site I was on, I've been on many times.
Richard, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, you've lived a life, right? You're obviously a very well put together person. You said you were in business for a while, or you're not stupid.
I know. That's the thing a lot of people say. You know, it's like, I mean, so I was in medical device sales. I started as a nurse, but was in medical device sales. We're the #1 medical device company, and was a regional manager. So it's like, yeah, I'm not stupid. This happened, you know, I heard like a short time after that, I don't know if you heard this story of, who was this person? Like somebody in finance, I believe, and she was frauded for $50,000. So it can happen to anybody. You know, you think you're aware, you think that you're intelligent and that you've had a lot of business experience, but they're very tricky. They're very slimy, and they're out to get. They're out to get people. And unfortunately, the statistics aren't good in my favor in terms of once you've been frauded, the numbers are like high that they'll come after you again. So I have alerts on all my credit agencies. I've already had my credit card compromised twice. I've had a new credit card. I mean, the fraud agencies and credit card companies are huge anymore and recognize anything unusual in your buying patterns. So, you know, it makes it more challenging if you want to open a credit account or something like that, but you have to do it. You have to do it in order to protect yourself.
That is wild.
What else were you going to say, Richard? I interrupted you.
No, that was it. No, you're wonderful.
Anything else
I
that
don't
you wanted
think
to cover?
No.
Okay.
I think, anything else you think I should? Do you have enough?
You were fantastic. You were great. That's an incredible story. I'm so happy that they were able to get your money back.
I tell you what, I could have kissed him. I said to somebody, it's like, if you were here in front of me right now, I'd kiss him on the lips or something, you know, and they were like laughing, but it's such an unusual ending. You know, I mean, I walked back into the bank with $150,000, or I mean, $150 $100 bills, and I'm like shaking as I'm putting it up there, and I'm like, I had spoken to that branch manager, you know, through that whole process, because I think there's things the banks can do to it, as I told him. It's like, and he told me they're trying to institute things, but don't let like somebody my age walk in and ask for a huge amount of cash. And he just that day, actually, there was a woman that had come in. She had already cleaned out her Twin Cities credit union account and wanted to take out her bank account, a bunch of money out of her bank account. And he said, I'm not going to let you do that. So it's like, at least I feel like they too are making progress and trying to stop these things, but they have to be able to ask a couple questions. You know, like, is someone making you do this? You know, is this totally your own decision? Because I've never taken out that kind of cash, never. Cash. I mean, anybody like lives with a credit card these days. You do most of your transactions like that, not cash.
You said you were literally shaking bringing that money back. They gave it back to you and you brought it back?
I went to the police department. I had to go because it was part of evidence and part of the case, and so they had to like go through closing the case and stuff. So I went downtown to the police precinct, and they brought me back into a more secure room. Made sure that I was parked close by, otherwise they would have like walked me out, accompanied me. But yeah, I drove directly from there to the bank. Oh, you know what? The other thing, these scams take place a lot of times. They will normally take place during the week because they know that they're directing you to go to the bank. So they're directing you when the bank is open. So Monday through Friday is their usual mode of operation for this kind of thing. So if anybody tells you to go and get, it's the same thing for the gift card scams. Go and get a gift card and your Spectrum, I mean, this is a Spectrum scam that another friend has been taken with. Go get a gift card for $500. Oh, not $500, $499, you know, crazy stuff. Don't go and get, don't go and do. If your identity has been compromised, call the police.